Namah Shiva Shanti. Oh, the limitless. Oh, Paramatma. Oh, oh, the limitless. Oh, Paramatma. Oh, the boundless. Oh, the limitless. Oh, Paramatma. Oh, the boundless. Oh, the eternity. Oh, the all-pervasive. Oh, the omniscient. Oh, the omnipotent. Lead us. Lead this Atman and my followers. Lead the truth seekers from the darkness to light. Lead this Atman. Lead this Atman and the truth seekers. Lead this Atman and the truth seekers and the followers from darkness to light. O Brahman, O Paramatma, O the Omniscient, lead us, lead us from untrue to true. Lead us from untrue to true, Brahman. Give us thy strength to shed the karma. O Brahman, give us the strength to face the karma. O Brahman, lead us in your path, guide us in your path. Make the unknown known to us, that now what is expected as far as we are walking in your path. Make the unknown known to us as what is expected as far as we are walking in your path. O Brahman, lead us in the path which has no fear in us. O Brahman, lead us in the path which has no doubt in ourselves. Brahman, give us the wisdom to know the difference between if it's your awareness that something is happening, or it is a thought prompted in us by the demons, or the devil, or the evil. Any thought which creates fear in you, any thought which creates fear in you, always look for the evidence. If a thought in any given moment, if a thought in any given moment, if a thought at any given moment creating paranoia or fear in you, look Always look around in that particular present moment and see where is the evidence. Always look for the evidence. If we do not find the evidence, if you do not find the evidence, if we do not, excuse me, if we do not find the evidence, if you do not find the evidence, do not volunteer your awareness, do not volunteer your focus on the thought. Thought would keep you occupied on a very surface level. That's the right way to express. Thought would keep you occupied on a very surface level. Any thought which creates duality in you, any thought which creates contradiction in you, any thought which tries to make sense out of objects around you, any thought which tries to make sense out of people around you, any thought which tries to make sense out of the thought itself. If you understand what I'm saying, any thought which tries to make sense out of the thought itself at any given moment while you are fallen back and you are resting within is not the thought from sacred or divine, because this is the thought which wants to pull you, because this is the thought which wants to pull you back from your fundamental state. You understand? What is evil is basically created by the thought. What is evil is basically made out of the thought. What is evil has no existence of itself. The existence and the power basically is coming from awareness. It has gained power because sadly and unfortunately, weak, spiritually weak beings subscribed tremendous amount of significance to the thought. So it has gained power. The power is coming from us. A thought, evil basically does not have an existence of its own. It is a parasite which does not give anything useful in return and just takes and takes and takes. This evil parasite usually, this this evil parasite usually manifests itself in the form of an idea. This parasite usually emerges in the form of fear, in the form of doubt. It always is behind the divinity. It can never win over the divinity. It is always is behind the divinity, and it is its nature. You understand? I hope you do. It is always behind the sacred. It is always behind the divinity. It is always behind the sacred. It is always behind the divinity. It can never beat the sacred. It can never beat the divinity. It emerges in form of fear, in form of self-doubt, in form of a thought, usually a useless thought. Have you ever noticed the nature of the thought, since evil also manifests sadly itself in the form of the thought, or a demented thought which creates fear and doubt? Have you ever noticed that thought only arrives afterwards. Are you alert enough to see that? Are you alert enough to see the distinction when you are perceiving at any given moment? Are you alert? Are you alert enough to see that when you are perceiving at any given moment, and thought always and always arrives afterwards? If you understand what I'm saying to you. Thought always arrives afterwards. It is not possible. It is not possible to perceive a moment and have the thought in the same time about that particular second and about that particular moment. If you understand what I'm saying to you, you may say, but when I was perceiving the moment or a given second, I had a thought in my mind, but I can guarantee you that you had the thought either about something which has just happened or something which is going to happen, meaning the near future or near past. It is not possible to have the thought about exact moment at any about any given second while you are perceiving through five senses that moment and you are having the exact thought about that moment. You may confuse perception. Are you understanding what I'm saying? You may you may confuse perception at any given moment with the thought, and you usually do, because we sadly are not alert enough to know the distinction. This process is so rapid, this process is so frequent that most people or an average person, now I'm not saying it with any type of arrogance, most people or an average person cannot know the difference between the perception while you are having and the thought about the perception. Thought is made out of what you have perceived. Thought is made out of the perception itself, but perception, while you are perceiving a given moment, the perception is not the thought. You see, if you only master, first, as I mentioned yesterday, that first we learn something, if you know what I mean. As I mentioned yesterday, only that first we learn something, and then we master it through practice. First we learn something new, and after we have learned it, we bring our focus voluntarily on that, whatever we have learned. And after that, through practice, with the repetition, through practice, we master it. I want you to conduct the meditation every day. This is your practice, if you understand what I'm saying to you. I want you to conduct the process. I want you to conduct the process of meditation every day. And then you would create distance between the thought and yourself. Then you would know when you are perceiving, and you would know the thought which is made out of what you have perceived. You see, the perception, the thought is made out of what you have perceived, the data. You see, then you would be able to distinguish, that's the word I'm looking for in English, then you would be able to distinguish between the perception as you are perceiving the moment and the thought. And if you gain the mastery only on that, if you only gain the mastery little by little through your dedication to Kriya meditation, practical is the most significant thing. If you only gain the mastery that when you are perceiving a moment and when a thought is trying to distract you, trying to take you away from the moment, if you learn to distinguish between that, you have 60 to 65, nearly 70% control on your mind, because you are alert enough now. You are alert enough to see if this thought is my ally. You are alert enough to see. You are alert enough to see if this thought is my ally or is this thought is my enemy. You see, are you following, understanding, comprehending my words? You would be able to observe any thought. You see, you would now, when you able to form the distinction between these two that I mentioned not long ago, you become your own, and you become your most powerful ally. Are you understanding? You become your most powerful ally. So it's almost like you versus thought, or you versus mind. And then you can observe the movement of the thought. And as soon as the thought appears, since you have learned to detach yourself from the thought, you can look at the thought and you can find out whether this thought is my ally or this thought is my enemy. Whether I should act on the thought or I should just discard the thought. Are you understanding? Whether I should act on the thought or I should just discard the thought. If the thought is going against you, if the thought is telling you something which goes against you, if the thought is occupying your awareness, your focus for no reason and trying to make sense out of something useless, then you know this thought is useless. The only purpose this thought is demented, and the only purpose this thought is serving is to pull me away from myself, and it needs my focus so it can remain alive, so it can feed off on my focus and my awareness, and it can remain alive. However, on the other hand, if you have a good thought, helping somebody, forgiving yourself, focusing, and banding. Have you heard the term banding? Do you band? Focusing and banding with the sacred, focusing and banding and bonding with the divinity, then of course you would feel very light. Any, God forbid me, any misery or any fear you wouldn't feel. This was the tool that I wanted to give you. And today, it's a brief one today, because the private meditation session is just right around the corner. The private meditation session is just right around the corner. So I have to wrap it up. But I have told you yesterday and today briefly, I again put my emphasis to do practical the Kriya meditation. So I hope you understand the significance of the practical. You see, you can form a distinction between the perception at any given moment when you are perceiving the moment and the thought, and you can examine the thought whether it's a friendly thought. You can examine the thought that whether it's a friendly thought or it is unfriendly. If it is unfriendly, you discard the thought. You see, you don't adopt the thought. And if it is friendly, you adopt it. Of course, it's common sense. Perform some kriya. Do not multitask in your mind. Please remember that. Do not do not multitask. Do not multitask in your mind. Okay? Do not try to multitask. If you are in a profession, if there is a situation, if there is the experience which is prompting you to multitask, if you understand. You see, I'm still in a state of meditation, so the idea, mind you, remember what I said. Remember what I said. I said the idea, but not the thought. The idea is something which is coming from sacred during this meditation and prompting me to tell you, which is do not multitask all the time. Okay? If there is a situation, if there is an experience which is prompting you to time, which is prompting you to multitask, okay? If you are in a profession, that's fine. But when you are by yourself, when you are alone and you are defocusing from everywhere, what remains is the journal focus. That's the best meditation state there is. You see, when you are defocusing from everywhere, at any given moment when you are by yourself, you are defocusing not only externally from the objects and the beings, but internally too. You are defocusing. What remains there is the journal focus. That journal focus, when you defocus from everywhere, what remains is the focus. But this focus is not prompted in a direction or a dimension. It's a journal focus. Everything is inclusive. That's the nature of life and is the best and effective meditative state, by the way. You see, that time do not multitask in your mind. You see, do not put your focus do not bring your focus voluntarily to a thought while you are trying to defocus and you think you can handle that. You see, you would not get effective results of meditation. This is a common mistake people make because of course, I teach them the Kriya meditation. This is a common mistake that people make. People try to bring their focus voluntarily on a thought because thought is begging and thought is saying, just this time, please, just this time, please bring your focus and I would leave you alone. No, it's never going to leave you alone. So when you are in a meditative state, when you are in meditation, do not bring your focus voluntarily to do multitask and bring on a thought. Defocus means defocus not only outside from the objects and the beings, but from within, even from the thought, because thought has also objectivity attached to it. Just it cannot be seen, but it can be felt. You understand? It cannot be seen. It can be perceived and it can be felt. You see, so you do not multitask that you are volunteering your partial focus to the thought to keep it alive and rest of the focus is on meditation. No, you would not get best results, you would not get effective results.